Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio.
Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. I'm Sheila Mack, your host, and today we have a very special guest. We have Sifu Karl Romain. He's a certified master trainer, certified professional life and relationship coach, certified master business coach, certified executive leadership coach. My goodness, you got the certificates. Certified cognitive behavioral coach, martial arts world champion. Yes, and I actually was in one of your classes once in New York. That's where I met you originally.
That's right.
Is the best, also a best-selling author and speaker. His main purpose is to help people who are at a crossroads in life discover new possibilities for their careers, relationships, and health. And this year we have hit some crossroads. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yes. So tell us, how did you come to start teaching about these crossroads in life? Did you have your own moment or crossroad that brought you somewhere, or?
I did, and to really get into it, I kind of got to go back a little bit. So my story actually goes back to being 10 years old, being a kid and falling in love with the martial arts, begging my mom to enroll me, and she finally did. And I can remember in my first class thinking, I will never quit. Like, I loved it that much. Mm-hmm. And by the time I was a senior in high school, I was trying to figure out my life. What is it I want to do? Where do I want to be? Which is what you do, right?
Right.
And I can remember I was in art school and I had my portfolio and I'm doing all this stuff. And I said, you know what? This isn't it for me. Like, it just didn't feel right. And so I started to evaluate where I was, and I made a decision. And I put that decision in my high school yearbook. I said, by age 22, I want to be a martial arts world champion. And then, go on to own a couple of schools or whatever. But that's what I did. I put it in my high school yearbook, and I didn't know why. I didn't have any foundation to kind of say something like that, except that I had trained in martial arts my whole life, and my instructor believed that I could. And so I graduate high school. I go out to California. I train with a world champion out there. I come back home and start training, competing, get ranked in the top 25 in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, my region. And then I had a horrific car accident. I was driving across the Tappan Zee Bridge on my way to work one day. Car cut me off. I spun out and hit the divider and suffered some injuries that day. The doctors told me that I'd never be able to do martial arts ever again. And for a while, I kind of accepted my fate. I wore a neck brace for over a year, and I traveled to different tournaments watching other people win tournaments, and some of them that I believed I could win because some of the competitors I'd beaten before. And basically, to make a long story short, there was one night where I was really frustrated just thinking about my future, and this thing about being 22 kept coming up in my mind. And I was talking to a good friend. He had been an athlete, had injuries, and he said, look, if you think you can do it, find your way. Find a way to do it. Make your dream come true and just go for it. And in a way, he kind of just gave me permission to go for it. And so I did. And to make, like I said, a long story short, by age 22, I represented the United States team in international competition. And I won the world championships, made my dream come true. And the real thing and what I share with people about my story is that my passion led me to my purpose, right? And my purpose is about inspiring people to live a life of their dreams. So that's how I got to where I am.
That is so beautiful. And, when you think about it, sometimes we just need permission. Mm-hmm. And once we have that, everything shows up in perfect time and falls into place. And we just have to be willing to do the work. Now, obviously, you couldn't just meditate about it and hope that, you had to do the training. You had to put in some long hours. And so that's the other side of it, is you have to be willing to say no to other things.
Mhm.
And I think very young, when you were 22 and you had to say no probably to a lot of fun things in order to stay in training, what was that like for you?
For me, I was just really focused and very disciplined. Like I said, I've been doing martial arts since age 10. So having that goal in front of me, knowing that, I also think that when you want something bad enough and it's taken away from you, and then you find an opportunity to go after it again, you're much more determined and much more focused. So you're a lot more willing to sacrifice things that maybe before you didn't sacrifice. Or maybe before you thought like, well, I got time, I'm going to get there, it'll be okay. But then suddenly there is no time. Right. All of a sudden I lost a year of training, competing, and everything else. So I had to really go for it, right? Otherwise I wouldn't have made my goal.
Okay. So now you said at one point when you had this injury, you were sitting on the benches watching the other people in tournaments. Now, there is a belief that it's kind of like a mental framing of watching games where you're kind of participating in your mind that's actually training your body. Do you feel like that was something that you experienced in that time?
Well, I did use visualization as part of my comeback, right? I really believe in the power of the mind, and we can get into that conversation a little bit later. But yes, I mean, sitting on the sidelines and watching, because for me, I loved the art. I loved the sport. I loved competing. I loved being an athlete. There was no plan B. I didn't kind of jump into this thinking, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll do that. Right. So for me, going to the tournaments, it was kind of like just to be around the environment and the sport and my friends that were doing it, right? Because, that's just the way I guess I was at the time. I was just so focused on it, right?
And that's beautiful too, because when you think about anybody, and I'm saying you were a younger person, but it could be at any age, where if you're not staying with the peer group that's going to keep you on track, what's going to happen is then you go down the wrong path.
Yeah, you drift off.
You never get back.
Right.
And so it's really important to stay with the people that are going to lift you up, support you, get you through things. That means that sometimes they're going to be there to hold your hand and help you, and other times they're going to kick you a little bit and give you the boot and say, hey, get up, let's get going. And, it's time to move again. And
it's true.
That was important. I mean, and you think about, you could have gone and, said, okay, I'm depressed now, or I can't do this and that, so I'm going to go start getting into an alcohol or an addiction of one sort or another. And yet you were able to stay very focused on, hey, I'm going to stay really healthy and heal through this and get back on track.
Right. Yes. And I think one of the things that people should know about athletes in general, a lot of athletes are single focused people, right? They tend to concentrate a lot on their sport, right? And so that helps us to get really good at what we do, right? When you hear about an athlete who becomes a champion in their sports because they spend a lot of time focused, training and discipline and really working towards that end point, that end goal.
And, even if you're not an athlete, whatever you're doing as a business leader, running a business, running a family, being the leader of your home, even right now, especially with things changed so much this year, where now you've got everybody home and you've got to work from home and have kids from home, and be in charge of it all at once somehow, magically. And so I think that it is really, really important to remember that you lead. It's like who you're being in all you're doing is going to show up and people will feel it. The people you're around. Like now you have students, you have different classes that you teach as well, correct?
Right. I have students at my school. I have staff. I have, coaching clients. I mean, it's full on. So for me, during this time of COVID, it was always thinking about, hey, how do we get on the other side of this? How do we, on the other side of everything that's going on right now, where do I want to be?
Right.
And that doesn't mean I didn't experience frustration. That doesn't mean that I don't experience sadness or, just even being upset about it. Sure, my business was closed for 5 months. I still had to pay rent. Like there's just, things are piling on. I'm a single dad. I got to take care of my kid, right? So there's a lot of stress and a lot of frustration during that time. But thinking about where do I want to be kind of helps me. It helps me to focus on not necessarily the challenge, but what is the solution to the challenge that I'm facing right now. And that's kind of like the same approach with the World Championships, right?
Yes. So that's training for life.
Absolutely.
Yes. So then when you have, maybe you're a parent and you have your children in a sport or martial arts, it really is a way to train for life. You learn discipline and different things that can help you. And we really need to have that in our life. And I think, as an entrepreneur and working from home now, a lot of the time, I have to have a lot of discipline, not to go get distracted, take other calls, have other people in the house start having conversations, and let's go do this and that during the work day, or else then my work day becomes an all-nighter. Get the work done. And so there's a lot of gifts in being home, but it requires a different discipline, and it's a discipline for the younger people that are stuck at home. I have 2 of my kids are home for college because the universities and dorms have closed.
Right.
And they're not able to be there. They don't want to really be there. They're good. But, right now they're like, okay, we don't want to take the test and then end up getting locked down at the campus. So we're going to wait. And so they're doing online at home, and it's a different discipline. So one of my kids is very disciplined in the sense that she's just been like that since birth.
Okay.
She's like a scheduled person. She had to be scheduled in preschool. She was telling us what to do. And the parents were like, lay off of her. Don't make her take classes. I was like, no, that's her. And that's just who she is. And the other one is usually an A student and now struggling with some C's because it is really hard
to focus. Sure.
You don't have somebody else guiding you or a group. And so it is really challenging for people, even though you could be a completely A student or top of your game in your business, then you're home and you're struggling with that. So
Sure.
What do you think, what advice would you give to people going through that type of a transition with coming from the sports discipline and the martial arts discipline that you can kind of take off of that arena and into life?
Well, I mean, there's so many things I could take, right? I think first of all, it starts with having goals and being really clear about what your goals are. I think the second thing is having a disciplined schedule, knowing what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and for how long you're going to do it for. Ultimately, it's about understanding your emotions and how to leverage your thoughts or your beliefs to get the results that you want. Right. So one of the things I teach my clients is that our thoughts determine our feelings and our behaviors. Right. And we call that the ABCs of emotions. And so it's really important to not only understand it, but then to apply it on a regular basis. And the more you're able to do that, not only will you feel better, but when you can regulate your emotions, that doesn't mean not feel. You have to feel whatever you're going through. But there's a way to do it where you're not so extreme from one place to another, where you're more centered and a little bit more in the middle, right? So if this is like 10 and this is like 1, you're at like a 5, right? And you're able to control that. You're able to think a little bit clearer about things and be able to regulate your emotions a little bit more. And just by doing that, that'll give you a little bit more, a greater sense of resiliency, so to speak.
And we need a lot of that this year because we have gone through so many changes in so many different areas. And I think especially for younger adults coming into this, it's an interesting shift that I've noticed with my college age kids. And as for parents and for younger people, what I've noticed is they actually are really starting to like review history and look at politics and actually be like, hey, you know what, this really matters. And I need to be involved because this affects me. and my world and everybody I love is being affected by this. What do I do? And so this universal pause is creating the leaders of the future. And I think it's almost like a reroute or a soul shift to something even better, because it shows you, hey, you know what? These are the things that matter most. And
I agree. That's really interesting. Yeah. Because I agree. I think it's true. I think sometimes we have to pause. We have to reevaluate, know where we're at and where we want to go. And, like if you look at my book on Unbreakable, I talk about it. I said the first step to everything is, what is your truth? What is your truth, right? And when you're busy going here, there, and everywhere, it's hard to stop, settle down, and think about, well, what is the truth? What is the truth about my life? What is the truth about what I want, what I desire, what I hope, and what I think, right? What's really going on here? And so being able to step back and stop and think about those things is important.
Very important. And that's incredible. So in your book, you're talking about, tell me more about this book. I
call the book Unbreakable, but it's really about resiliency. It's about overcoming obstacles. In the book, the first step, like I said, is truth, right? The second step is about thoughts and beliefs, because I believe so much that our thoughts are going to determine everything about what we accomplish in life, right? A thought is basically the seed, right? We water that seed and it becomes a belief. When it becomes a belief, it takes root and it filters the way we see and interact with the world and the way we show up, right? If I have a belief or an idea that I'm not good enough, well, guess what? The mind always wants to be right. So the mind's going to keep working to give me the evidence that I need to show me that I'm not good enough, right? But if I have a belief that says, hey, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I can accomplish things, guess what? That's going to manifest too. All right. So it's thoughts are critical. And I spent a lot of time talking about them and talking about beliefs and how the thoughts impact our beliefs. So that's the second step. The third step is discovering your purpose. Right. So the first three aspects of what I talk about in the book are all inner victories. Right. When you know your purpose, what you're here for, what your mission is, you're going to stay on track and stay focused a lot longer than somebody who doesn't know. Right.
Yeah.
And then after you've got all of those things in check, then it's easier to figure out, okay, what are the choices I need to make? Right. And you can look back over your life. What were 3 good choices? What were 3 bad choices? What choices do I need to make right now? What are the things that are serving me? What are the things that are not serving me? What is my truth for this situation? And then finally, the last 2 steps are action, because you got to have action. You can't just have this great plan. You can't just know what you want to do, but you got to take action. And I think Tony Robbins says massive action, right? Yeah. And then the last step is accountability. I have found, and I'm sure you have found, and being coaches, we also have coaches, right? I have coaches that coach me. And I have found that whenever I allow myself to be accountable to my coach, I always do better, right? Yeah. So it's one of those things that maybe growing up doing martial arts and being accountable to my martial arts instructor was one of those things that influenced me to think that way. But I just found that accountability is the key to success. It really is. It's really going to make a difference when you have that person in your life that you answer to. Right. It's going to help you.
Very much. And I think, you talked about assessing, what have I done that worked? What did I do that I wish I didn't do or that I could have changed? And this year represents 2020 hindsight to me. I'm like, okay, now, everybody says, I wish I had that 2020 hindsight. Well, we had a universal pause to meditate about this. And now we get to restart and rebuild our lives on our terms. And with that, we can decide what gets to stay and what needs to go away. Right. And that's going to make a big difference getting into this next year and getting through this year.
I totally agree. It's, we can't go back and change the past. And if you're holding on to the mistakes that you've made in the past, I urge you to forgive yourself. Be more compassionate with yourself, because beating yourself up is not going to allow you to be the person that you need to be or to move forward. It's actually going to keep you stuck, right?
Yes.
And so if you really want to set yourself free and set others free, forgive yourself. Start with that. Make a list. These are the mistakes that I've made, and I need to forgive myself for this. I need to forgive myself for that. These are the things that have happened to me in my life, the grudges that I'm holding on to, and I need to forgive these people for that. Just start with that and just start to acknowledge the things that are weighing you down. I know a lot of times, and in my book, I actually do the forgiveness exercise. So the book is just packed with great stuff. May I show you the book? This is the book. This is the book right here.
Okay, right, Unbreakable. Right? I love
Unbreakable. But it's just packed with like coaching tools and exercises, and one of them is the forgiveness exercise. And I know a lot of times when I do that exercise with clients, clients will say, "Hey, I feel so much lighter." So you don't realize all the stuff that you're carrying around that's weighing you down, right?
It's so interesting because years ago, I had a terrible situation happen where somebody I loved was attacked. And I had to decide, was I going to keep that hate or, kind of give it to the universe, give it to God, do my best to make resolve with it, legally, and then move on. And I made that choice. And at the time, I was surprised that I made the choice to be in forgiveness. It wasn't okay, but obviously to be in that place because I knew better.
Right.
I wasn't going to own that. I wasn't going to carry that with me for the rest of my life. And it really has made a difference because that's really between them and source, however you want to figure it out. It's, karma, whatever you want to call it. And you do your best to be legal about things. And then you move on because that's theirs. And whether it was a mental illness or something else going on that caused that has nothing to do with me. And if I take it with me and I kept it and I kept that anger and I kept that resentment and trying to get back or all these other things, it would make me sick. And they would continue to be owning my life.
Right.
They would have power over me.
That's right.
And so forgiving somebody else is the most empowering thing you can do. That doesn't mean they have to be in your life. That doesn't mean, they have to have anything to do with you or you have to be best friends. It just means that you let it go.
Yeah. And sometimes, Matthew West sings a song about forgiveness. And the song is actually based on a true story. It's about a mom who lost a child to a drunk driver. And she went on to not only forgive the drunk driver, but today they go out together and speak about the dangers of drunk driving and the power of forgiveness. And she says, in losing a daughter, I gained a son. I mean, that's the ultimate level of forgiveness, right?
Yes. And it is hard to do, but the choices are to actually be sick or to be free.
That's right.
Yes. And, you think about the drunk driver, obviously that was not a good thing.
Sure.
But definitely.
He was a young kid who made a mistake.
Yeah, a big mistake.
Yeah. And
that definitely, we've lost a lot of people that I know to drag racing. My daughter's best friend was killed with drag racing at 19 years old. Wow. And it took about 3 years. And the parents were very religious. They're very religious, beautiful people. And they forgave and said, we hope this person turns themselves in. And they were doing all these different campaigns about it and speaking about, helping parents get through this when they were ready to do that. And, that person did turn himself in and they did talk and they do have some type of a relationship. And so it's interesting because that energy was felt, I think. And, all these studies like on water, on plants, you put your energy on it and your intentions and your thoughts and the plant dies or the molecular structure of the water changes. So how much different can our energy be even sent out to this year? And that goes for, think about, okay, I confess I have cursed this year. 2021, like
You
what?
are not alone.
Yeah, they're like, what's next? And I'm like, hey, why am I asking for
Don't
what?
ask that question.
Like, please, and so it's like I had to switch even that, because I was like, I need to intentionally say what beautiful things are going to unfold. The opposite of all these difficulties is good and beautiful gifts that are going to show up in so many ways. Healthcare, everything, the way we live as a society, and things are going to finally, they have to break down in order to reorganize to something even better. And so I have to train my brain to go to that place instead of cursing this year.
Sure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I mean, we all go through stuff. One of the stories I tell in the book is about losing my best friend to breast cancer. And at the time I was working with a coach, and one of the things that he said to me, and one of the things that I heard even in the story that you just shared, is when you go through a great loss, you have to find purpose.
Yes.
Right. So here you are, you had the parents who lost their child to a drag racer. They found a purpose. They went out and started talking about the dangers of it. Right. This woman that I talked about before in the Matthew West story, same thing. She went out and she started talking about, the dangers of drunk driving and the power of forgiveness. I mean, you find purpose in those things, it's going to transform your life. It's going to not only help you, but other people as well. I think it was Kenny that said, throw a pebble in the water and watch the ripple effect, right? And sometimes we can take those tragedies and turn them into something more beautiful, right?
Yes. And, we don't know why the good die young, they say. And this year, especially, we have lost a lot of people. I lost my youngest son. I lost in December. He had a situation. It's called Wolff Parkinson White syndrome, and it's a situation on your heart where, in 5th grade, he was playing basketball on a team and he just dropped, and that's how we found out he had it.
Wow.
And so it's something, and they do ablation and they do all these different therapies. And then there's nothing else they can do. And some people can be fine their whole life, and yet they don't know, and your heart can just stop. And so I think, wow, how can I look at that? And we decided, I think we had the gift of extra time. We could have lost him in 5th grade, and he ended up living until 22. And so I had to retrain my brain. And we worked on gratitude and on retraining where we're thinking. Are we going to the sad part? Or are we going to the happy memories and what he would have wanted? And for us and his siblings, they were very close. And so that makes a difference. And we've gone through and will continue to go through grieving, because that's healthy and normal. And everybody has their own process. It's a very sacred journey. Yet being able to contribute in other ways, be on this show and talk to people and share about ways to get back on track this year is one of the happiest things that I'm doing, because I feel like, okay, somebody's going to hear this that needs to hear your message, and is okay, do I forgive or do I keep this, or whatever we're discussing, that we'll talk some more, and they're going to get your book maybe and read it, and that's going to make a difference. And that's like my being on purpose that has really helped.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss. I mean, it's a great loss, but you're right. Finding that purpose will make a difference, not just for you, but also for others.
Yes. So now with these sports and the training, there's a lot of us. I don't know what to say, but we've had this COVID-20 thing happen. So do you have any or plus or whatever happened? We don't know what happened. That couch, I burned my couch, but with that, what advice do you have for people that maybe, okay, this all hit and maybe they went to the refrigerator instead of, they couldn't go to the gym and they didn't have alternatives at the moment, or just stress, whatever. What do you have as advice to get back on track in that area, coming from the fitness world?
You know what? Just start moving. My Kung Fu instructor he's like 80 years old, And he says, you got to just keep moving, right? That's the secret. Just get up and start moving. The other thing is, I want you to recognize that diet plays a huge role in your health. And so not just how you eat, but what you eat, right? Really pay attention to that as you get started with anything, and make sure that you go to the doctor and get your checkup, and know that it's okay for you to take on, some more physical activity before you start. I see a lot of people getting out right now, and they're walking and doing things. I think that's great, because you need to get out of the house. You need to start moving a little bit, put on your mask, be safe, do all the right things, but just start moving.
Yes, and I think that that's one thing that happens, is that as we slowly start moving, it's like once you're in motion, you stay in motion, right? And when you're not, you get stuck sitting on that couch.
Motion affects everything, right? Motion affects emotion, right? You just gotta. That's why I say you got to start moving, right? I can give you the mental lesson for it, right? The word lesson, I could walk you through the word lesson, but it's better to have a world experience where you can just get up and start moving, and you'll start notice you just feel better.
I think it's more important for our mental health than our physical health almost. I mean, it's you get the physical results, but it's really the mental. If I didn't have the Peloton to ride at home, I think I would have gone mad for those 3 months when we were on the lockdown, and we weren't even supposed to. I didn't really want to walk with a mask on outside.
Okay.
To do like walking fast,
yeah, it's quite challenging. I've done it.
I'm not going to do it, and it was where I live now. It was really hot. I'm at a place where it was like 118. So you're not going to like take long walks in the summer at 118. It was 102 at 9 o'clock at night walking the dog. Wow. And we waited until 9 o'clock at night to walk the dog because it was too hot. Yes. It was just, it wasn't safe for anyone.
Right. You got to stay hydrated with that kind of heat.
Yeah, exactly. Even the dog was like, look, I'm going to sit down for a minute. And so that Peloton, the Peloton bike, now I'm sharing about Peloton, but that bike, it really was a save. And also just the yoga mat. And my daughter and I would do like some yoga together and watch the online programs. And that really helped mentally. It was like a mental break.
I'll tell you what else helps mentally. Breathing. Yeah, I see so many people, they're stressed. And what do you do when you're stressed? You stop breathing, right? So if you're listening to the show and you're currently not breathing the way you should, take a couple of deep breaths and notice how you feel. I'm kind of being light about it or joking about it, but honestly, breathing is one of the most important things you do. And when we teach people Tai Chi, that's one of the first things we start with. How do you breathe properly? Breathing from the lower belly, really taking deep diaphragmatic breaths. It's going to have a profound effect on you, especially if you're going through an extremely stressful time. The way you breathe is the way you respond, right? And you can challenge me on that because, like if you think about it, when you're nervous, how do you breathe? There's a certain breath that goes with that, right? When you're upset or sad, there's a certain way you breathe as well. And when you're happy, there's a way that you breathe. And when you're calm, there's a certain way that you breathe. So practice breathing is critical to how you feel.
And to be able to go, I think that really helped me through my tough times this year, to be able to go to that training of getting into the breath and getting into the mindset. And that really helped me through the hard first few months, really, where you go back and forth with this grieving. And it really helped me because I had those tools from meditations, from lots of different events, and just doing lots of yoga for many, many years. I did all the trainings and it really, there's something about it, how you live on the mat or how you're doing your practice doing Tai Chi is how you're going to live in the world.
Right.
Yes, it makes such a difference. And I doing the Tai Chi, when I started doing that, this is really interesting because for me at first, I'm a fast person. I'm like, okay, let's go. And it's hard for me to
Slow down.
down and like, okay, I've got to feel this energy here. And 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 then I started to really get into the flow, and I could feel the energy flow.
Mhm.
And it was so peaceful, and it becomes addictive. And those are the kind of healthy addictions that we want versus going up to the refrigerator every minute or getting into drinking or something else. And believe it or not, like cortisol, our body produces cortisol when we're stressed. So if you feel like you're stuck right now and you're like starting a program, the breathing, doing a Tai Chi or a yoga or slow walks, meditations is going to really help, because we are dealing with a lot of stress. Turn off the news if possible. All this stress that we're taking in is raising our cortisol levels. So we could be like working out and trying really hard and sometimes over pushing and pushing more cortisol. And then we're like, but this scale is not moving. What is going on? And it's pure cortisol, it's pure stress. So doing those things, the meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, relaxing, giving yourself a moment, because even the universe here, we call it the universal pause instead of the pandemic as a positive, but it's like, hey, we were all sent to relax. Go to your room and reevaluate and take the pause.
Right.
And that's going to make a big difference this year.
Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people talk about affirmations. So can we talk about affirmations for a little bit?
Yes.
Because affirmations are important. However, there's aspects to it, I feel like, that are not always taught.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they are important for people to have and to know. But when you are doing your affirmations, there's a couple of things you need to know. First of all, if you're saying your affirmations, your mind will only respond to things that you tell yourself sincerely. So there's 3 ways that we communicate with ourselves. The first way is we lie. When you lie to yourself, your mind knows you're lying. Right? The second way that you communicate to yourself is like humorous, right? It's like a joke. It's like, yeah. Like you don't really believe it. You don't buy it. And the third way we communicate to ourselves is sincerely. So the problem is, or the challenge is some of the things you say to yourself sincerely will not support you in where you want to go or the person that you want to be.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
So when we are doing affirmations, we're saying things that we want to have happen in our life. We're describing the person that we want to be. It's critically important to say it sincerely. Remember what I said before about the mind looking for evidence?
Right.
If you say it sincerely, your mind will start looking for the evidence to support what you're saying. And then there's one more piece. You have to act as if you believe what you're saying, right? So you remember what I said about the lie thing? You got to support what you're saying. So let's say, for instance, you say, I'm happy and positive, right? That's your affirmation.
Right.
Okay. So then the first thing you got to do is make sure you say it in a way where you mean it sincerely, wholeheartedly. The second thing you got to do is figure out what's the behavior to support what I'm saying. Otherwise, it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to act as if you are happy and positive. What would a happy and positive person do? How would I behave if I really believe that? And doing those things is what's going to help your affirmation to take root and become your new belief and help you to get a different result in your life. Now, when you start that process, you have to overcome something. You have to overcome a big word, cognitive emotive dissonance. And it's a weird, awkward feeling that makes you think it's wrong because it's not your natural or your norm. It would be, for instance, if you're right-handed, it's like putting the pen or pencil in your left hand. It feels wrong, but it's not necessarily wrong. Right.
That makes a lot of sense. So what came to me as you're sharing about that is make sure those affirmations that you're putting into your life and your mind are positive ones. So if you catch yourself, sometimes we catch ourselves saying negative things about ourselves and picking on ourselves.
That's
maybe
right.
it was something a parent did, or maybe it was something we learned. I don't know where it comes from. But when you start catching yourself and switching it to a positive thing, maybe, yes, we all want to learn and grow and change and improve in every area of our life. Yes. But let's give ourselves credit and put in those positives that we know are true and affirm those instead of, because we can easily affirm the wrong things that would cause even more pain.
That's right. And it takes 16 positive statements to erase one negative.
Whoa.
So think about the power of repetition that you have to do with the positive stuff, right?
So that goes for us personally. If you're parents, that goes for when you're talking with your children or your young adult children that may be home. That also goes for if you're running a business and you're talking with your employees. How can you be positive and give them, you're going to give them feedback and constructive criticism, but in a way that's resourceful and helpful, but not in a way that you're going to have to make 16 other statements to make up for it, because what we spend more of our time at work or maybe working online now than we do off with our family. So this is an important environment, and it's going to give you the results you want to have. You want your company or your team or your students to be positive. You got to show up with that and show them your positive sides. I'm sure as you went through all your trainings, your coaches, the people that were training you in the martial arts, they would point something out, but they would bring in some positives.
Absolutely. Encouragement is the key to success, right? I have a mentor that talks about playing golf. And he says the difference between golf players is their first coach, their first golf coach, right? If the golf coach was super positive and encouraging, they continue to play. But if the golf coach was like, oh my God, you're horrible, you just, usually those people don't play golf for too long.
Yes. That is so true. And, it's funny, I go to a dance class and the dance instructor, whenever somebody's new to the class, they're like, oh, you have dance. You did a lot of dance classes before. Did you dance professionally? And he'll do that. And then everybody's like, oh yeah, I can. I sure I can dance. And they feel so relaxed and good, even though maybe they're not catching up or keeping up. Then they don't care and they're having fun and they become really great at following along quickly because they're like, oh yeah, I can dance.
Yeah,
and it's that switch. And it's funny because I was like, yeah, sure. Of course we can.
Well, think about it. We do with our kids, right? Like nobody discourages a child from walking. Think about how hard it is to walk, right? Like if you had an injury and you had to relearn how to walk, I understand it's harder as an adult than it is as a child learning how to walk for the first time, right? But our children, they get up, they fall, we encourage them, get back up. Oh my God, he took a step, right? But imagine if the opposite were true, right? Oh, you fell, stay down, right? Life wouldn't be like our kids nobody would ever walk, right? So
I'll be crawling around.
Right.
Yeah.
So a little bit of encouragement is a good thing.
It is. And think about this year. We have been knocked down as a society, as a world in different ways. We have had things happen and we continue to get up and get back on track. And that is making all the difference.
Absolutely.
And we're getting better and better at it. Yes. So that is a really good thing. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well,
so I just wanted to give people some practical steps. So I don't want anybody to just think, oh, thinking positive is going to change your life. It helps. It's definitely better than thinking negative. But, if you follow the steps that I gave you, if you affirm, if you follow the affirmation with behavior, all of those things that we're talking about, breathing, staying relaxed, forgiveness, setting goals, staying focused, being disciplined, all of those things that we're talking about are practical action steps that you can implement today. Like maybe you've been having that kind of year and that kind of day and that kind of season and that kind of week. It's not going to stay like this. And you have a choice. Who do you want to be on the other side of it? But whoever you want to be, it starts now. It doesn't start when you get there. Right? Because we bring to the future with whatever we prepare with today. So prepare today for your future because your future is going to be brighter than it was yesterday. Right?
Just like you had to go and start all over again after you had that injury, you had to rebuild and retrain all the muscles in order to become a world champion. And that is the same thing we need to do this year, is retrain and prepare and keep going and understand,
Just
give
keep
ourselves
going.
forgiveness when, hey, you know what, this, I got to retrain this muscle big time, whatever. It's okay.
Right.
Forgive yourself through that. Like you were saying, forgiving yourself is so important. I love that.
Mhm. And every day is a new day.
Yes. So
Every day is an opportunity to start over. And I'm not preaching to you. I'm trying to tell you that I'm in there with you. I'm doing everything I'm telling you to do. I'm doing for me too, because it's hard for me, right? It's like I have my own challenges. Like I said, just working through business, being a parent, like whatever it is, like I said, I'm not preaching. I'm trying to share with you, like, walk with me, take this journey with me, and I'll support you. Reach out to me, send me a note, a message, whatever it is, because we're all in this together. Everybody's going through it at the same time. Some of us are going through worse than others. I know some of you are probably on your last leg thinking, how am I going to make it through? Will I have enough money to survive the storm? I don't know. I don't know if I will either, but here's what I do know. If I look back over my life, God has always been there for me, and my faith has gotten me through. And all of these lessons that I've learned have supported my actions to help me keep moving forward and keep working towards making my dream come true. And while I'm doing that, I want to impact as many people as I can. If you do the same and impact many people, you're going to see that on the other side of this, your life will be better.
Yes. And with that being said, I wanted to bring up a really important thing I just found out on another interview, that you remember 411, you would call 411 for information. Now they have 211. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
So the 211 is the new 411, but it's different. It's for those people that in your area, it's nationwide in the United States, because I know this show goes everywhere, but in the United States, you can call this number 211. You call in and they will help you get resources. If you're having trouble getting food on the table, they'll help you find the food bank. If you're having trouble with the rent right now, they'll help you with forms or different ways.
That's
so
great.
Whatever's going
really
on,
good.
that is so important.
Yeah.
They'll refer people to any hotline that they can't find, and help people get out of an abusive situation, perhaps, whatever it is, going through an addiction. And that is a great number to keep, just for yourself or for anyone you know that may be going through something and you can't help them, but just giving a phone number and a resource and lots of different resources is going to make all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So now, so where can people connect with you and how can they get your book?
Okay, so if you go to overcomingobstacles.online, right, you can get the book for free. You can get a PDF copy of it. Okay, so I encourage you to do that. You can also visit my website, sifukarlromain.com, and you can find out all about me and some of the different things that I'm doing. If you're in relationships and you got some challenges in relationships, a lot of people have been spending a lot of time together. If you go to coaching.reignitingyourlove.com, you can get some great resources there. We have some coaching tips, and we coach clients for their relationships and help them to do better as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for being a guest on the show, and we will see.
If you are just tuning in, this is NBC Sheila Mack Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and I would like to give a special thank you and shout out to the sponsor of this episode, and that is Kindred Bravely, a premium maternity and nursing brand that makes it easy for mothers to find functional, stylish, comfortable clothing. Since launching in 2015, Kindred Bravely has grown into a sisterhood of moms who help each other transition from the bump to the breast and beyond. Kindred Bravely is here for moms no matter where they are on their motherhood journey. Their mission is a comfortable bra in every nursing mother's wardrobe. Things like premium, super soft fabrics, including bamboo and organic cotton, supportive wire-free bras for a variety of sizes, including special busty sizing for E to I cups, bras for nursing, pumping, or both at the same time. Sports bras, sleep and comfort bras, versatile everyday bras, and more. ultra comfortable bras, undies, sleepwears, loungewear, and activewear, bump friendly tops and bottoms, nursery friendly dresses, tanks, and tees, and so much more. Visit kindredbravely.com and use discount code SheilaMac20 to save 20% on your purchase. That's at Kindred, KINDRED, Bravely, BRAVELY.com, kindredbravely.com, and use discount code SheilaMac20 to save 20% on your purchase. If you are just tuning in, this is NBC Sheila Mac Show here on KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and I have a special Happy New Year announcement for you. That's right, just for beautiful, authentic you. So in this new year, I am personally plugging in all my 2022 up-leveling routines. That's right, I'm not doing goals, or as much to say as I'm not just doing a resolution that I talk about or just write it down on a list. I'm actually already scheduling in the small acts that I need to do each day that are actually going to bring me results over this 365, I guess, or less now, when you're listening in 363 to whatever it is, days. So at any rate, one of the things that I would like to introduce is that we will be having some talks on business and investing. That's right, business and investing reboots this year. So if you are looking to do a side gig, or you have a business yourself, or you're in a career and you are looking to earn some extra money, I have some tips and different things that my family, I have 6 grown children, we will all be participating in some of these and trying them out and sharing opportunities with you. And then we will also be talking about real estate investing, which is something that I have done since I was very young. So my real estate investing experience comes from, well, when I was 18 and a half years old, I bought my first little triplex. I was already working at Jet Propulsion Lab in JPL in Pasadena, California, where we have the famous Rose Bowl every year right near there. And so I saved up my money and bought this little triplex. It was very humble kind of fixer thing. And I lived in the back teeny tiny unit and rented out the best parts to everyone else. I guess I was house hacking before that was a term. And I continued to save up and invest. I was very creative on my financing, still going to school and working. So, from that to investing in many different properties, I started gift stores at 23, and the first one I leased at $5,000 a month. And I said, wait a minute, that's a lot of money to be giving to somebody, the landlord, every single month. And my mortgage, if I can save up enough to put down, I can get into a mortgage. And you know what? With business credit, which I will be sharing all about, I did just that. And business credit is a magical secret. So if you don't have a side gig, that's why that first part is important with your investing, is to have that extra income or side gig, have an LLC or an S Corp. So setting that up at 23 when I started my gift stores, by the end of the first year, I had more buying power than most people. I had a corporation's buying power. Like, they would give me credit. You can't believe I could just walk into any dealership and they'd have these specials. I'd get the best credit, like 0 interest. I'd be able to negotiate the deals on things, different vans or whatever I needed for the store. And it was just incredible. And I actually used the business credit to purchase some of the properties. One was the headquarters and rental property. And so I had some mixed use, and I actually purchased the other 4 buildings and stopped leasing and just became an owner And so I got into real estate and investing from being an investor, and then later as other store owners were really interested and wondered, wait a minute, you're half my age, they would say. And how are you buying buildings? What is going on? And so with that, I went ahead and I got my real estate license and started sharing about that. Worked at a small owned brokerage. And then from there, helped and led some real estate courses for real estate agents on 1031 exchange, and have done multiple 1031 exchanges and helped many small business owners and families to invest in property. So I'll be sharing about my journey and how this year, even if you think, you know, this sounds like, how is this possible? I'm going to help you figure out if that's something you're interested in, ways that you can make it become a real possibility for 2022 moving forward. So I hope you tune into my show. There will be some upgrades. We will still be doing lots of incredible interviews with amazing people sharing about resources and reboots and ways they got back on track and hearing their stories. And also we will be getting step-to-step challenges and ways for you to tune in, call in, and ask questions and be guided to actually make 2022 a wonderful time for your business and your personal life. All right, so stay tuned. I'm looking forward to hearing from you soon.
The Hebo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea helps build the red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95 plus shipping. To order, please visit lovemysupertea.com. That's love, L-O-V-E, my, M-Y, super, SUPERTEA.com. So the complete website is lovemysupertea.com. Or call us at 818-288-4128, Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5 California time. That's lovemysupertea.com at 818-288-4128.
Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mac's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. If life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.SheilaMac.com today.